watching the news for what was about to happen and how we had to change it. And it changed 2 days later, and then something else changed. There were so many changes to payroll legislation in that period of time. I think there was some 20,000 around the world. Absolutely, it was crazy. But in terms of what businesses can do, I think, stopping what you're doing, looking at where you are, taking stock is really important, and imagining where you want to be. I'm a firm believer in simplifying and standardizing wherever possible, not doing things because you always have. That is probably one of the worst phrases in the English language. We've always done it this way. Got to stop doing that. So create global frameworks for processes like payroll, reporting, and auditing, while allowing for the regional customizations that we've been talking about. Implement a clear set of policies that outline company expectations globally. Establish dedicated compliance teams or an officer to ensure alignment with global and the local regulations, like we're saying. Promote ethical behavior and integrate compliance into the company's core values. Encourage open dialogue. Make sure people are talking about things that they're hearing about. It might not be something that's anything to do with them, but it's going to help the business. Subscribe to regulatory update services, hire legal advisors specializing in international law, attend industry conferences, join associations, stay informed wherever possible. Most of all, you can go to all of these external experts, but you need to make sure that your people are trained and you're provided tailored, training to each region, focusing on the key areas that they're going to be working in, like anti-bribery, labor laws, data privacy. And one of the other things that businesses can do is to test themselves, conduct regular audits to help identify gaps that they might have before they become issues. Use those findings to redefine policies, and look at implementing corrective measures. Make sure that you document everything, keep thorough records, agreements, communications in case of any query, audit, or disputes. And finally, and I've kept this bit to the very, very end because I'm a very, very firm believer in simplification and harmonization. Leverage technology, use it to its best ability, track deadlines, flag potential risks, automate repetitive tasks.
When you said technology there, Ian, Michael smiled, and I could see you're like speaking his language right there. He was so excited to see that. So Michael, the next question is going to come to you. Ian, that was tremendous, by the way. I want to ask you a quick follow-up before I go to Michael. Actually, you mentioned audits. Is there a regularity or a time frame you recommend there, like a spot check every 6 months, every quarter, what's your recommendation for employers on that piece?
For me, it would have to be, an element of the payroll at least every quarter. If you leave it every 6 months, I think you're looking for disaster. And in my opinion, the more you are checking on yourself, the easier it's going to make, Big Four audits or external audits, governmental audits, and that kind of stuff. If you can actually give an auditor a file, access to a shared drive, and let them get on with it, it's time you don't need to spend with them whilst you're trying to process the payroll.